I want to talk about something that I find pretty interesting inside the context of an insight lecture. And the question is that I want to address is, what is a bar exam fact? Right? What is a bar exam fact? What do I mean by that question? Like, just pull back for a second. Like, what am I even talking about? I'm talking about the idea that there's all these facts on any given bar exam question, right? Like, here's an example. This is a pro rep question from 2013. There's all these facts, right? And now I'm telling you, I'm going to say it again and again and again. You're not a student becoming an attorney. You already are an attorney demonstrating your skills. That's how you got to go into this thing. I'm not kidding. All right. So at the same time, you've never dealt with something like this before. I mean, law school sort of, but the bar exam is a little bit, quite a bit more intense than any other exam, really, right? And so you see all these different facts, and you're trying to think, okay, I got only an hour to get it all set up and written out and everything, and you focus on too much law, and then maybe you found out you didn't pass, and you're like, well, what happened? And someone looks at your answer, and you go, where's your analysis? And you go, well, here, my analysis. No, there's no analysis. Why? Because you didn't use the facts. Yeah, but I did all this. No, you didn't use the facts. Happens often with people, right? It's the most common reason why people don't get a good score. So why do we miss facts? Why do we not see them? Why do we not understand when to put them in and when not to put them in? Why do we not talk about them enough? If you see these published answers, it can drive you crazy because the guy will start talking, or the gal will start talking about this whole other aspect of the situation. It's not in the facts. It's almost like they were like looking down on it with, from some omniscient viewpoint, and they knew all this stuff. Well, my question to you is, how did they do that? Because I'm about to tell you right now that you can do it too. No problem. And the reason they were able to look down on a set of facts and, breathe some life into them and expand them is because they actually brought the real world into the legal facts. They brought common sense. Okay? So what I want to show you right now is that bar exam facts, right? Bar exam facts, they have two dimensions to them. They're not just, let me just go with that. They have two levels to them. So we all understand that bar exam facts have a legal significance. If we didn't understand that, then, I don't know how we passed law school. All right? There's a legal significance. So somebody walks into a guy's Photoshop and he says, hey, can you take pictures of my family? And he says, sure. I can do it on Tuesday morning, and I'll do the whole thing for $100. And he says, great. They shake hands, shows up. Is that an offer and acceptance? Yeah. What's significant about the 100? Well, not that much. But what if it said something like, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I want to buy numerous copies of the photos, and I'd like for him to ship them out to my family, and how much is it going to cost? And the guy says, well, it'll be $1,000, and they shake on it. And he says, okay, cool. So he goes, he takes the pictures, and then the guy never sends the stuff out. And he says, well, you violated the contract. And maybe I'm going too far, but the point is, what's the legal significance of the fact that it was $1,000, the fact that it was the pictures being shipped now, and the fact that it was a handshake? What's the legal significance? Statute of frauds. The fact that it was goods, actually pictures being sent out, right? Which would be an interesting point, because what if the pictures were actually being digitally sent as opposed to physically sent? Now that would be interesting. Why? Because what would be the legally significant fact of him being digitally sent versus sent by U.S. mail? Well, is it a good or not? Because remember, statute of frauds only applies in this scenario. It only applies to the sale of goods over $500. So there's two legally significant facts there. Three actually. Number one is it was $1,000, so the contract needs to be in writing. Second legally significant fact was the handshake, right? So it wasn't in writing. And the third significant fact would be whether or not these were physical pictures or electronic pictures. And you would talk about that. If you wanted to get a really high score, you would talk about all that dimension, right? So those are some legally significant points. Now, there's another aspect to a bar exam factual scenario, though. And that's the part where most of us forget. We stop doing this. Why? Well, let me tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you why. What's the other part of it? You have the legal significance of a fact, and then you have the common sense aspect of a fact, right? And most of us are really good at this because we've been trained, but we forget to do this. Why? Because we've been trained. You know, law school, I don't know how it was for you, but for me, it was after the first year of law school, I was thinking, oh my gosh, you know, like I see the world so different. I have a machine in my head. I see the world as a machine. You see a car accident, you know, you might, you know, we're still human. You might see someone, you think, oh my God, I got to help them. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh my God, okay, well, people are talking and, you know, there's various, you know, kinds of evidentiary issues going on here. Maybe there's a hearsay thing happening. Was somebody negligent? Was the light red, green? Was it who went through first? What was the, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm getting a little caught up here, but my point is that we start to look at life through the legal rules, which creates issues. So we start to cut life up. And when we cut life up, we wind up looking at reality, and it's got to fit in a specific set of boxes. And when we look at an exam through this specific set of boxes, we forget that life is happening out here, right? So I got to give you a good example of this. You know, a common sense type scenario would be, okay, we're looking at a situation as an exam answer I just recently explained, where you had a tax attorney who took on a representation of 3 people at the same time who were all responsible for a environmental hazardous waste cleanup type situation. And the whole case really revolved around, yes, competency, she's a tax attorney, we get that part, but the whole case revolved around loyalty. Can she take care of all 3 of these clients at the same time? And there's some other legal, you know, some other facts there about this one guy. His name was Owen. He was the wealthy party, and he says, you know what, I'm going to pay for the representation for all 3 of us as long as the other 2 guys sign, and off you go. And that was pretty much it. I mean, the facts were about that thick. It wasn't a big, long set of paragraphs. So you got to step back from that for a second, and you can see the legal significance of the fact that she's got multiple people, and she's a tax lawyer and environmental stuff, and you might see the legal significance of him paying. But you know what? If you're down here and you're just the legal machine that we've been taught to become in law school, and you stop being a human being, which is, of course, what we were before we went to law school, and hopefully we still are now, if you forget this, there's no way you can really analyze a bar exam fact. You can't do it. And that's the funny part, because that's exactly what gets on what the published answers are. Read them. The published answers show that this person is a real attorney, is an attorney. What is an attorney? An attorney is a person that looks at facts, understanding the legal significance, but understanding the human significance. Like, you know, a lawyer is able to see the big picture. Like, what the hell is going on here, man? Like, what should we be worried about? I mean, half the time through history, lawyers had to invent laws to protect people. So there was no legal significance to the fact. There was only the common sense. Oh my God, we got to protect people, so we better make up some new rule. But see, as law students, we get stuck with, oh, here's the rules. No, step back. You're an attorney. You could make new rules if you wanted to. You can, right? You can argue for it, but where are you going to argue from? You know, it's almost like, I don't want to go too far, but it's almost like step back into natural law or something like common sense. You know, I remember saying to my corporations professor, she was so pissed at me. I don't know if she would ever see this. I won't name her. I did respect you, but she was mean to me. And she says to me, you know, I didn't read that day. I didn't. And I know I should have, but I didn't. And she's calling me, and she said, Mr. Kirby White, you know, could you please tell us the significance of this aspect of the Model Business Corporations Act, section blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't read it. She says, or, like record screech. I'm like, oh, you didn't read it? And I was like, yeah, professor, I'm sorry. She's like, that's no excuse. I said, well, you know what? Hang on. Let me tell you what it is anyway. And I started to say it. And I said, and you know what? And I was right. And she goes, how do you know that? And I was like, because, professor, with all due respect, the entire Model Business Corporations Act is nothing but codified common sense. The entire restatement of torts, the entire restatement of contracts, what the hell is it? It's just codified common sense. What is the common law? The common law is common sense that gets transformed into legal rules through decisional law. That's what the common law is. What the hell is it? The common law is basically, like contracts, it's basically fairness, the contemplation of the parties, reasonableness, given this transaction, what should have happened, there's the case. That's it. And there's like this 1,000 rules in the restatement. I mean, what the hell is the law? It's codified common sense. It's common sense that's written down in the language. And that's what you got to understand. You got to pull back and you got to say, wait a second, I'm not going to just look at this paragraph of stuff they're giving me and then and have to be forced into their little box and get confused and scared. No, I'm not doing that. I'm a lawyer. I'm the guy that gets to look, or the gal that gets to look and say, here's what should be happening, okay? So what I'm trying to tell you, and yeah, I get a little passionate about it because I want you to succeed. I want you to pull back and say, wait a second, what's the common sense here? What's going on? So, all right, so let's go back to that example. You've got these three people who are being represented by one attorney, and it happens that this guy, Owen, he wants to pay for the representation, and it happens to be that he actually knows the lawyer because it's his former lawyer, his tax attorney. Well, it doesn't say much else than that about the loyalty and the conflicts of interest. You have to pull that out. How do you do that? What the hell is going on here? What is going on here? We got some guy, he's going to pay the attorney. He's probably going to try to influence it. What would he be doing? He's probably going to say, look, you got to make sure to get me out of this thing. You know, I want you to do this, this, and this. What's going to happen behind closed doors in that attorney's office? He's going to try to probably influence that attorney. Is that attorney going to have independent professional judgment? Probably not. So what? Well, can she honor her loyalty to the other two people and also listen to this guy that's her former client and paying? Probably not. How do you know that? Because it's common sense. That's how you know it. It's common sense. But we forget common sense because we turn into lawyers, which are basically, we are machines. And so to understand a bar exam fact, what are you looking at? You are looking at something that has two zones of significance. It has legal significance based on your knowledge of rules, and it has common sense significance based on the fact that you're a human being who can think and reason. And that's what you got to show on your exam. Show them that you can think and reason. I promise you that's the key. Even if you don't know the rules perfectly, if you can think and reason robustly from the rules you know, you're going to do great. Read the published answers. The published answers have mistakes. They have mistakes in law. They have mistakes in analysis. They have, you know, anybody can have a spelling error, but something. But look, there's mistakes in the best answers. So if they can pass with a mistake, you know, why can't you? Right? So in any event, think about what is the significance of a bar exam fact. Think about that and pull back and just say to yourself, look yourself in the mirror, and I'm not even kidding, just look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, great job, or whatever, right? Just say, congratulations, because you did it. You made it happen, all right? So go out there, practice your butt off. Practice, practice, practice. That's the key. Learn, practice. All right, I'm done. Go make it happen.